Hello, beautiful friends. It's Erika. Today's topic is somebody does not have to be toxic to be an energy drain. This is something that we have all been learning and practicing in our lives. Is we certainly obviously know when someone is an energy drain, but in a time where there is so much intensity in the world around us, we have to be very, very vigilant. You guys have heard me talk about this ad nauseum nonstop because maintaining our light and our balance is extremely important during these crazy and sometimes chaotic energies and world events. So, with this, one of the things that I wanted to come on and talk to you guys about today was a more subtle way that things or people can be an energy drain that are not as obvious, but they're still very important to pay attention to. Like I said, we are probably really good at knowing those people that we get around and we are just exhausted after being around them, having a conversation with them. We know that they suck the life out of us, right? This can also apply to situations. But one of the more subtle things that is happening, one of the more subtle ways that the things around us can drain our energy is with people or situations that simply redirect our focus away from our light work. So what do I mean by this? This can be situations in our lives where we dedicate time to something, but it doesn't enhance our light. But more importantly, I want to talk about things like friends, who we choose to spend time with. This is something that while we may spend time with friends who are wonderful beings, wonderful people, we care about them deeply. But if there is not an equal exchange of light, right, where, you're each giving and receiving a certain amount of light, support, and I would say value, although that's not quite the right word. Where you're not giving and receiving equally. I will leave that to you to interpret however you like. That can be a very subtle form of an energy drain, meaning there are all the time and energy you spend with these people can detract you away from strengthening your light. And I'll give examples. Like, we all have those people in our lives where when we talk to them or we get around them, it's like we become more exhilarated. We love spending time with them. We raise our vibration, if you will. And there are other people that are more neutral in that way, where they're not draining, but they're also not enhancing our light. And if we find ourselves giving and giving and giving more to the conversation or to, whatever's going on, and we're not sort of receiving inspiration, ideas, new ways of thinking, things like that, then it's like that still drains our light and our energy. And we often don't realize this is happening. And it's not as obvious as those that actually drain our energy where we notice it. It's more of those where we're giving, but we're not receiving. So you see the difference? One takes away, and the other, you give it away, but you're not receiving to replenish, if that makes sense. Other ways that this can play out is in what are you choosing to spend your time doing? I had this really tough lesson last week about a situation that is continuing with the construction next door. And I will leave it at that. Many of you guys watched that video where I detailed it. But I thought that was that situation was completely over with, and something new popped up last week. And it was one of those things where it was not okay what was happening. And I had a choice. I had a choice to leave it alone, or I had a choice to write a letter. So I freaking chose the letter writing option because I had to stand in my light and in my power, right? And I was like, all right, I have to do this. This is what I have to do. I kind of got, so I spent a few hours crafting a very detailed, important letter. And the next day, wouldn't you know it, the people I even met with didn't even bother to read the letter. And I was like, I met with them. It was obvious they hadn't read it. I asked them if they had read it, and they're like, nope, no, didn't want to read it. And I'm like, oh my God. So my lesson in this was, in the future, those 3 hours I spent drafting a very detailed letter, that I gotta tell you was really well written because I really worked on it hard, didn't even freaking matter because they did not even bother to read it. And guess what it did instead? It took me away from writing my book. It took me away from working on some of my light projects I have going on. It took me away because that exhausted me. It's a lot of energy to do that. It didn't even matter. I'm like, well, that was a colossal waste of time and energy and effort. But you know what? The dark, right? That's trying to distract us. That's another way the dark is doing this, is through distraction, is to pull us away more subtly from doing our light work. And that's another example of how this happens. And it's just so exasperating. I literally was like, all right, when am I going to learn that this situation, it's like, I can't do anything about it. And I thought it was done. But then one last chance came in, and it was like tempting to try to advocate for myself again. Because gosh, that's right, isn't it? Shouldn't we all stand up for ourselves in crappy situations where things are unfair, unjust, and wrong? That are directly impacting us negatively? Of course we should. However, one would think that with this situation, after multiple stops and starts with this situation where I thought it was taken care of and something else comes in, and then I get engaged again, and then something, I think it's done. Then another thing comes in 3 weeks later. Then another thing. This thing has been dragging on for like 6-7 months. So it's like, one would think that I would have learned by now that no matter what I do or don't do, it's not going to change. And I know that now in hindsight, right? Easy for me to say that now. But at the time, I thought this was it, and it was my last final, stand up for myself moment. But anyway, so my final point and message is, be very vigilant and aware of where your energy isn't being fueled. Because we have a choice in that. What fuels our light? What fuels our passions? What fuels our energy levels? And rather than, looking as a sort of protective, what's going to protect my energy, it's now time for us to shift our energy more to proactively choosing what feeds our light. What feeds our light? Because quite frankly, with the situation next door, if I had just taken those 3 hours and just trusted them and strengthened my light, maybe something would have turned out differently. Instead, it diverted me from my power for a few hours. So, beautiful friends. In fact, this is very connected to what I channeled that I am putting on my next podcast episode that I will be releasing. So if this is resonating for you, you might want to check out on my podcast. I've restarted my podcast. I've got now, it'll be about 3 or 4 episodes up since I restarted it, and this will be coming out approximately weekly. And I'm really excited about that, where I do channel a lot of guidance and information and dialogue with spirit and share what comes through in those discussions. So if there's anything that you are curious about or would like me to go and have a tete-a-tete with spirit about, let me know in the comments below, because I do this regularly, multiple times a week, where I sit and channel and record what I channel, what comes through. So anyway, stay in your light and fuel your light, my beautiful friends. And if you'd like to join my inner circle, it's a free membership. There's videos there and special things there that I don't post anywhere else. If you're interested, the link is down below. And in the meantime, I hope you are doing fabulously well. Stay in your light, and I send you so much love. Bye.